Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the basketball match of the century. Coming in, weighing in as an inanimate object, and I have no idea what the actual numbers are, a Looney Tune known as Bugs Bunny and his live action lover, Michael Jordan. If you guys didn't know, welcome. This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is
Cheryl.
and today we are talking about the 1996 Space Jam movie. So, if you haven't seen it, we are getting into spoiler territory here. It's on HBO Max, so go and check it out if you have a subscription. I feel like if you haven't seen it, then you probably aren't going to watch it unless you want to watch the new Space Jam. I feel like most people have seen this movie at this point. But regardless, let's go ahead and just get right into it. All right. So, Cheryl, I got to tell you, when we were going to talk about this movie, we made a decision on what we thought was going to be better between this one or the last one. And I had a suspicion. I was like, man, I get the feeling that this movie isn't as good as I remember it being, and it's probably going to suck. But then from the moment that the movie opens and you hear the opening song and then the opening montage with the next opening song, I remember this movie's incredible, and the soundtrack and the score of this movie is absolutely amazing. I'm about to have fun, and then that's exactly what happens. What are your thoughts?
Exactly the same thing, like what you said. I was
Ditto. All right, we can end the stream.
yeah, it was good. All right, no, nothing left, nothing left to discuss. But no, like seriously, I remember going into it with you, not just you, but other people saying like, "Oh, that movie wasn't that good." So I was like, "Oh, do both of them go on? It wasn't that good." But I was like, no, I remember liking it, and yes, I guess that could have been because I was a kid when I watched it.
Yeah,
But I feel like if I liked it as a kid and it was
you
made
probably
for
still like it.
kids, then we can, still appreciate it for being good for kids. But when I watched it, I was like, this movie's still good. It holds up. Like I was still laughing at the jokes and stuff. Like I
Right?
enjoyed myself. I had a good time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The jokes in the movie are pretty good too, because basically what ends up happening in the movie is that you actually have these jokes that are references to things that I didn't realize at the time, because they legit make a reference to the Mighty Ducks when Daffy says, "Oh, I want to have name the team the Ducks," and they say, "What kind of Mickey Mouse organization names the team the Ducks?" And I was just like, "Wow, that's pretty funny." So yeah, I there are jokes like that that I didn't get to appreciate when I was a kid, and like I just was really happy to be able to watch this movie, understand those jokes, but then still laugh at the other jokes that you have in the movie.
Yeah, and it just does this really good job of like not just being for kids, it's also for adults. There's other jokes in there like, with Bill Murray kind of breaking the fourth wall there when Daffy's like, "How did you get here?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm good friends with the producer, and Teamster just dropped me off." And like, like a
That
kid
was
won't get that. A kid
I
100% won't understand what
I
that is.
mean, there are some adults that won't get that. Like, literally, I didn't know what a Teamster was until a couple of years ago when I started like working on like union movies. I didn't know that there was a union for drivers and they were called Teamsters. So now when I hear that joke, I'm like, that is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Because even I was like, I made my notes. I said, how did Bill Murray get here? Why is he here? And they don't even answer the question. They just make it a joke. Yeah, Teamster dropped me off. I'm friends with the producer.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then it's also funny because the alien boss, Danny DeVito,
Yeah.
he doesn't realize that it's Bill Murray, and he thinks it's
Dan
Dan
Aykroyd.
from the other Ghostbuster. I, I feel like that's also not for kids. It's very like those shows are
No.
just like references, I guess they're very good for adults. I think I don't think kids would pick up on those.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this more when we get to talk about the 2021 version, but like a lot of the scenes, like the movie plays kind of like what you expect a 90s movie to play like. It feels like a 90s movie, an 80s transition to 90s family film. And it's if for whatever reason it works. It still feels good. And I the Michael Jordan as an actor, like he's not a great actor, but he's charming and he works. And I personally think he worked better than LeBron James, but we'll talk about that later. And so he it's pretty fun. And then the technology for the time for like the whole idea of it's the Who Framed Roger Rabbit thing of having live action with animated characters. I think that they pulled it off pretty well, and I think it still holds up to this day.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's very involved. They really make use of the technology, and having 2D characters in a 3D world is not easy, but they still manage to do it. I know, like, they did Roger Rabbit before and other films as well. But this one was a more recent one, probably one of the only movies in the 90s, even the 2000s, where they did something like this. At least, like the well known ones. And they do a really good job because I guess, like, as time progresses, it's easier. Like, they really have refined 2D animation. And so it looks really good. Like, the drawings of like the tunes are actually pretty beautiful, I think. Like,
Yeah.
just the shine and everything on it, and just the way they're textured as cartoons, like it looks good, and it makes me feel like they're really in the world, especially when like they're doing things where, like, the Bugs and Daffy are in the trophy room, and they're like going through the drawers and stuff, and like actually interacting with objects in the real world. It
Yeah.
looks good. I buy it.
Yo, same. When they pick up the shoe and they unzip the bag to put the shoe in and stuff, I remember thinking to myself, so was this entire thing shot by people just like dressed in green screen, like in a green outfit? Because this is feeling very impressive to me, and I need to go back and look at Who Framed Roger Rabbit to see like how they were able to do with that technology at the time, because I don't have a really good knowledge of the transition of film technology to like using CG from practical effects. I don't know when that started to like really happen. I know like they use CG in like Terminator 2, for instance, but it really makes me wonder if they were able to take the techniques that were utilized in like a movie like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and then basically evolve them so that you can make this movie and, like you said, these characters, these 2D characters, but then when they're moving in a three-dimensional plane, they still kind of have a 3D feel, but they're still 2D. It's really impressive to me.
Yeah, and I also just kind of want to give a nod to that scene because I know that they definitely put that scene in there so that they could have the tunes interacting in the
Yeah.
real world. But they made it work for the story. So, you know, because like they had to get the stuff, and then you get to see the children a little bit more. It really is just to show off the technology, but
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it was unnecessary. It felt like it was still built on the story and the development of the characters. And
Yeah, and like when I saw it like as an adult, I remember thinking the same thing. They did this to show off what they can do. They wanted to show both worlds. They wanted to show that they can not only put a real human in a toon world, but they can put two tunes in this case in a human world and have it work. And it reminded me about how George Lucas, when he made the prequels, he wanted to try and push the limit of what he did originally with the original Star Wars trilogy, and he wanted to push the envelope and experiment with new technologies and challenge people to like do something new. And so when I saw that scene, it almost felt to me like the director saying, I'm going to challenge our animators and we're going to show off our talent. We're going to show off how good we are by doing this scene. And to me, it pays off. Looking back on it, outside of the how the film itself is filmed, like with live people, because does have a very 90s feel to it. Outside of that, I can't tell you that these techniques that they use are like outdated or anything else, or are from like, almost what, like 20 plus 25 plus years ago. So it still holds up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like it really has been done before. Roger Rabbit, obviously a really famous movie, and it's I think it's famous for exactly that. And like I can't think of another film where they actually did something like that. Um, like so good that it's so memorable. And this is definitely right up there with Roger Rabbit. And I can't say the story as is as good as Roger Rabbit, but it holds up and it's for the kids and it's great for the kids. It doesn't have to be, an Academy Award winning story.
No,
It
and
really
the main thing
doesn't.
is that it's still fun and it has to still kind of like make sense within the world. Like, it's not supposed to be a realistic movie. So when you have like Michael Jordan get ripped into a golf hole and his friends are just like, oh well, I hope he's okay, and they leave. We're like, that's not a very realistic like response to that situation. But it's a cartoon world, a cartoon movie, and with cartoonish characters, both in live action and in 2D form. You just kind of roll with it. And one of the things that I liked about this movie specifically is the fact that the Monstars have personalities of their own that you get to kind of experience before and after and during the times when they get their powers. So you actually get to have fun with their personalities as just themselves, which is going to be a thing that's going to be a through line into the 2021 Space Jam. One of my criticisms about that movie and their villains, but it allows you to have more of a connection with them. And even the reason that they decide to do a basketball game is based on the Toons trying to cheat out these guys because they're just like, oh, they're little. They can't beat us in basketball. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to steal people. And they're like, oh, crap, they can beat us in basketball. So even just that through line of like a simple story makes sense. And they didn't even have to do that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very simple story. Like you can even say that the story is cookie cutter, but
Yeah.
it's like decorated in such like a cool way, and I just really like the aliens. Like they're so cute, and like
Their voices are great.
their voices are like, "Don't move a muscle."
Mm-hmm.
They're just so freaking cute. Can't get over it, and like they're not just cute. They're also funny because like they don't understand the real world. I guess they're kind of gullible. Like they're
Yeah.
naive. They're just doing their jobs, right? But they're also kind
Right.
of like kids. They're like also like the Toons where they're just little vulnerable guys, and even though they turn into the Monstars, they're still them in just a bigger, more aggressive way, like physically.
Right.
But
And
like,
yeah, and they could have gone the way like the Monstars take the appearance kind of like the people who they stole their powers from, but they don't act like those people, if you know what I mean. And that's another difference between this and the 2021 one we'll get into. But like it it just works the way that they decided to do it. It
mm-hmm.
works for making those characters still imposing, but not so scary that kids are going to be like, I can't watch this movie because you have a bunch of like scary monster looking things. Um, they're still like fun in that way to make kids be able to still have fun with these characters and then buy those toys, which is what I did as a kid. I had the Monstars as well as the Tunes and as well as Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. They got to keep their characters even though they were Monstars. For example, when when Tweety gets hurt, and then Michael's like, "Tweety, are you okay?" And then like one of the aliens comes over and he's like, "Yeah, dude, are you like okay?"
That's my favorite alien, by the way. I love it.
And they even like later, like when when they're actually playing the game, like one of them gets their pants pulled down and
Yep.
good stuff.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And the other thing that is surprising about this movie, and what also helps to make it iconic, more iconic than it has any right to be, are the songs tracks that they made for this movie. Like, it's amazing. The movie opens with in one of the lines from I Believe I Can Fly, or a section of I Believe I Can Fly plays at the opening of the movie. And then after that, when you're doing the opening montage, the next song that plays is the It's Time to Jam song. I don't remember what the name of the actual song is, but and it's to this hype montage of Michael Jordan doing all these things, and it gets you excited and it gets you pumped. And then there's one more song.
Fly like an eagle.
You said what?
Fly like an eagle.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the other one. Like, those are three iconic songs in this kids movie that has no right to have three iconic songs. They'd have been lucky to have one iconic song. You like look at movies like Mortal Kombat, they came out with one song that's like defined that movie, but this movie has multiple, and that's crazy impressive to me.
Yeah, like just watching it back, I was like, it's just you can't help but notice the music because you know these songs, you've heard them. Like, if not from the movie, you heard them on the radio. You karaoke these songs. Like,
yep.
You've gone to like sports events and they've played these songs and they're for this movie. Like, they didn't take these songs from other places. They were designed for this movie. So it's like, and it's a huge collab because they're not like, nobody like singers and bands that make these songs. So it's literally all star. You got Michael Jordan, you've got the Looney Tunes, Danny DeVito, Bill Murray even wanted to be in this movie as himself.
As himself, just having fun, again. Wanting to be a basketball star. Yeah. Also, wait, Basketball Jones. That's another one that plays in this one, but I can't remember if that was made for this or if that was a song before this.
That one I'm not sure.
Okay. But yeah, so we talked about some of the things that we liked. We will be fair. Let's talk about some of the things that we don't like. And for me, there's like two major things that I don't like, but especially as an adult looking back on it now. But one of the things, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a dislike for you as well, is their treatment of Lola Bunny, who is basically, like, I don't have a problem with her outfit as much, but when she's walking, she is doing the whole swaying her hips. She is this movie's Jessica Rabbit. She is this movie's kind of like femme fatale, and she's kind of only utilized, she does some things, and she is the one that can like play basketball better than anyone else. But at the same time, the character kind of only exists as to be like a love interest for Bugs. And then that's about it. And it doesn't help that she's like minus Granny. She's the only other kind of female toon on the team.
Yeah. Wasn't the witch there as well?
The witch?
Yeah. Or was that the other movie? I can't remember.
That might have been the other movie.
But yeah, like, and Granny wasn't even playing. She was just a cheerleader. So. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Looney Tunes is very lacking of female characters. And that's something that, like, we can't really blame Space Jam for because the Looney Tunes already existed.
They made one for the movie.
Yeah. I mean, there are other characters in Looney Tunes that are female, but the major ones, no.
Right.
And so I'm glad that they decided to create Lola, but I don't think it was executed very well. However, it was 1996, so
yeah, I
applaud them for the effort, but they could have done better. I mean, they're still learning. They're still learning. So.
They learned. They're still learning.
Yeah. So I applaud them for the effort with Lola. I also applaud them for having, that scene with the female basketball players that one guy, I don't know basketball players.
Charles Barkley.
Yeah, he played with them. So that was cool that they were there.
Yeah.
But then they messed it up by saying, like, having him tell his therapist, like, I got beat up by girls, like it's a bad thing, and But again, I applaud them for trying and, like, trying to depict women in a strong way. Yeah. However, they, didn't do great with, not objectifying them, not making gender stereotypes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and I think the other thing that is present in this movie, and maybe this is something that the new one does better, but the kids are basically a non-issue. You could take them out of the movie and nothing changes. They aren't really necessary, and there's really no, like, we find out that one of the sons had like a problem with their baseball game, and then nothing happens to help. Nothing that with Michael Jordan affects that kid's story. So it's almost one of those things of like, why bring it up? And they have, it almost makes you wonder if things were cut from that kid, because you see that scene at the end, he's doing the whole thumbs up thing, and it's like the kid doesn't really have any bearing on the story. They got this, they helped get the shorts, and that's about it. So that's one of those elements where I'm like, it's there, but it's not really needed, and I felt like it wasn't needed.
Yeah, I actually did notice that. I didn't remember that they began an arc for him but didn't finish it.
They didn't finish it at all.
Good one.
Yeah, they forgot about it. But yeah, was there anything else that you did not like, or anything else that you wanted to say about this movie?
I think I also had a problem with the whole thing with going back to Lola. I had a problem with the fact that they have this whole moment where she's about to get squished, and then Bugs saves her like a damsel, and that's garbage. I mean, I get it, like, 90s and stuff, but then, she's a toon. Toons don't, like, die. They don't get, I mean, sure, they get hurt and stuff, but
they come back. They don't get hurt permanently.
Yeah, and I feel like they didn't need that.
No, they didn't. Even when I saw that, I was like, but Bugs is going to be fine after this, so there's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of like the biggest issues, but I still think, like, that withstanding, the movie is still surprisingly funny. There's some very good scenes that happen in the movie, and it's still, in 2021, it's still enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it really holds up. Like, I was very surprised after watching it again for the first time after, like, 20 years. More than 20 years. I was just really surprised, like, of how well the technology held up, how well Michael Jordan's acting held up.
That surprised me the most, actually.
Me too. I was like, I don't feel taken out of the movie from his acting.
I think he did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, he did.
So.
I think I felt a little... I felt bad for Stan. Although, like, he's one of the only Caucasian characters in this movie. He was also not physically in shape. And they were mean to him, and I feel like it's, there's a lot of different ways to discriminate and to put people down, and that is one of the ways to do it, and I didn't appreciate that as well. Like, I appreciated the diversity, but I didn't appreciate the way they handled that one.
Yeah, and that's probably one of those, like, holdovers from the 90s. That, like, the 90s was that time of make fun of anybody that is, like,
different,
non-desirable in some kind of way. Pick a trait that is non-desirable and then make fun of that. And that's kind of like what the early 90s leading into the 2000s was kind of built on, specifically like in movies and stuff. And so that's kind of an example of the times, and that probably would not be done to that extreme today. So, but I can definitely see where you're coming from as far as it not feeling great, because they constantly would make fun of his weight, and it's like, you don't need to do that. And he's a scared, sniveling, cowardly character. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fact that by the end, him and Michael were cool, and I like that he has that line. And he's just like, Michael, they don't think you can play, and I was like, all right, so at least it seems like you guys are on the same page now. But I kind of felt that too from his character.
Yeah, I did not
So.
enjoy that part. It just made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I can understand why. But is there anything else you kind of wanted to get off your chest before we get out of here so we can start our next segment?
Nope. Let's take it out.
All right. So make sure you guys, if you want to hear us this full segment of what we're talking about live, make sure you check out our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/C3Films. And for all of you guys on YouTube, what did you guys think about the movie? Did you like it? Do you miss it? Did you go back and watch it and find that it was just as good when you saw it when you were a kid, or is it your first time seeing it because of the 2021 version? Whatever you thought, comment below, let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I've been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time.